Hey folks, how are you? Hope everyone is good. I am streaming from the new apartment, so we'll see how this goes. This is my first time streaming from there, so we'll hope that the Wi-Fi works and everything is good. Thank you for joining me. Today we're going to talk about finding, hey there. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay as well, because everything's set up kind of weird. Just want to talk to you about my apartment experience. Hey there, James. And also just heads up, if you hear anything random, there is a aerial show that is going on, and I'm gonna try not to get distracted because I have the attention span of a toddler. So I will try to stay focused as we talk about what you should prepare for if in fact you are moving to Portugal within the next 6 months to a year. This can go on, what's happening right now can go on longer, but I just think you should really be aware, and you might want to have some conversations with yourself if this is the move to make right now or if at all. Because if I had to go through what I just recently went through when I first moved to Portugal, I probably would have just picked another country, to be honest with you. Perfectly honest. Okay, so full disclosure, I am going to be doing hey there, y'all. I'm going to be doing a private Zoom Q&A same time next Sunday. Okay, it's private because I still want to be able to be open and honest with everyone, but I still want to respect the culture and everything, because I don't want anything to get misconstrued, and I try to be considerate when you're speaking about things of other countries and you're being that foreigner. Like, I'm not trying to be that person that's just being negative and stuff like that, but I do want people to be aware of some things that they may not have considered to hopefully make your transition as smooth as possible. So it's free. You can come through and we'll chat, and that's going to be in Zoom. And the link is in the description of this video. Okay, so feel free. I'm gonna get distracted. That's what I'm looking at. I keep looking at the planes. One just went. Anyway, so let's talk. Let's talk. I didn't put my phone on vibrate. I'm sorry about that. So let's just get into what the issue is. So the apartments and rentals all over the world have just been crazy, and Lisbon is no exception. So I knew that I had to move out of my apartment about 3 months, and I had been looking for 3 months, and I was open to get an apartment or purchasing something. When it came to purchasing something, I had a very strict budget. I didn't want to spend a ton of money. I wanted to look at something that was potentially could be an investment later, but I could live in it for the next 3 to 5 years, or about 3 to 5 years, right? So I knew what I wanted to spend, but I didn't want to go above that because I knew it wasn't really going to be my forever home. So I was open to moving back to the city and doing a whole bunch of things, right? So let's talk about the renting versus the home ownership. So I've purchased more than 5 homes in my lifetime. And so there are certain things one would expect as it relates to purchasing, right? So I'm going to talk on purchasing really quickly, and then I'll jump to what you need to know for a rental. So if you're considering, particularly if you were coming from the United States, majority of my audience are US folks considering moving abroad. So a couple things you have to remember. There's going to be a currency fluctuation. We are in a war. Europe is in a war right now, right? So there's a lot going on with the currency. If you were someone who purchased a property just last year, the highest the euro was $1.23 equals €1. So if you took your USD money and attempted to purchase property in Portugal in euros, you already lost on your investment in regards to the currency fluctuation. Now, your property may have appraised or not, or stay the same. It just really depends. So there's certain types of things you have to consider when you're running your numbers, particularly if you're doing this as an investment. You have to consider the currency change. Okay, in addition to, if you are taking, let's say, a lump sum of money from a home equity line of credit, an appreciating asset, then putting into a possible depreciating asset, how that's going to affect you. And we're about to go into a recession. Okay, so if you had to pay bills or you had business in 2008, 2009, you know that the houses were once worth something ridiculous and then prices drop. Now, the longer you're holding the investment, you could probably recover, but it's still something you need to think about in your numbers. So when it was time for me to look at various things about purchasing a property, I thought some things were standard and they're not necessarily standard in Portugal. So it's important for you to know that. One of the things I wrote some stuff because I haven't gotten my room all together. So this stuff kind of crazy. So, all right, there we go. So the first thing is there's no escrow account. So when you're purchasing a home in the States, the buyer and the seller, you take the money, you put it into an escrow account, which is usually a attorney holds the money. You have a contract. There's various contingencies so that either party, if they want to go out, they can get their money or they can part ways. Everything's cool. Here, there is not, from what was explained to me, there's not an escrow. And that made me super uncomfortable. I went the process of attempting to get a loan. So I got pre-approved for a loan from a Portugal bank. So that helped in a variety of ways. It required the bank to do an appraisal, right? So an appraiser is a profession that's known in the United States. So you usually will hire one when you're going to purchase a house, just so you know what you're buying before you buy it. That's not so much of a thing here, right? So if you are purchasing through the bank is going to require appraisal. But if you are taking money out of your home equity line of credit or whatever form investments and liquidate and going to purchase this home, you may not necessarily know the true value of the home. If you're just assuming it is what the seller is offering or asking for, then that might not be the best move. So between not having an escrow account and not being able to, and not having an appraiser, again, the bank would have done it. That just set some things that are just, it's a little different, and you gotta be aware of that. So if you, again, are purchasing in cash, how are you going to know that your property is worth what you're assuming that it's worth? And you cannot base its worth based on where how much properties cost in your home country. Please don't do that. You have to consider that every country, regardless of Portugal, but just when you move abroad in general, country has its own economy, and you have to consider that when you are moving and investing in said economy. Okay, so consider that. Really find out what the prices are, and a real estate agent can help you with that, but do not forget about the currency changes and the fluctuations. Okay, so the rental market, let's jump over to that. And again, you guys, if you have any questions, you can stick around and just go ahead and if you could put Q in front of your questions, it'll let me know that says a question versus you communicating with someone in the community. So let's talk about rentals. So the rental market, again, is crazy everywhere. There's various factors that are making it crazy here in Portugal. So, of course, Europe is in a war, right? So there's displacement from people from Ukraine, from Russia, a variety of places. And then, of course, Portugal was said to be one of the cheaper European countries. Is that the case? I still have not seen that to be true. It's pretty pricey, and it's much more pricier now, in my opinion, than I've seen in the 3 years that I've lived here, right? So there's another factor. Californians, if y'all watching, y'all know how y'all over here just affecting everybody's world and states and doing the most, right? So California visa is requiring, and I didn't do California, so confirm it with the California office, but they're requiring a year lease to apply for the visa, which seems, respecting everything involved, seems interesting. That is the word I will use. And it's, in my opinion, it doesn't seem like Portugal is requiring that, because that is not the requirement for all other embassies. So out of the DC embassy, not required as of now. Check the publishing if you're watching this in a recording. That's not required. It's not required for the Boston embassy. It's not required for a variety of other Portugal embassies. Sorry, y'all. I told you it was planes flying around, right? My apologies. So that's not required from other embassies. So California specifically makes it sound like the state of California chose to make this a little bit more complicated. So California wants a year lease in a country you don't even. Anyway, so you got to come with a year lease. So what's happening is Californians are coming and they're offering people to pay a year up front because they need a year lease. So what's happening is there's massive bidding wars. I know what I saw. I may see an apartment that's reasonably priced, right? And then you go there and it's literally turned into some form of a bidding war. So even if it looks reasonable, by the time you get there, there were a ton of people. And I didn't look during the summer because I just knew that was going to be the show without the I'm gonna try not to curse, but I knew it was gonna be a show, right? So I had to move out. Was it last month? I think I've only been here for 3 weeks. I haven't lived here a month yet. So I'm in the apartment that I moved into, right? So I had a train of thought. It's a plane and I got distracted. So Californians. Yes. So there's going to be a bidding war. And I have some questions that you guys emailed to me. And I can't tell you what the price is going to be for the apartment you choose. Like, you get that, right? Like, I couldn't even do that if you were doing that in your home country. It just really depends on the amenities you want and that type of thing that's going to determine how much you're going to pay. Now, being foreign, you may have to pay have a guarantor. Now, granted, if you're not from this country, you wouldn't even know where to get a guarantor, right? So usually that the landlord would say they want more rent, right? So what I did find is that they're not allowed to ask for more than 3 months rent, and the rest they can ask in deposits. Now, you have to decide if you feel comfortable giving 3 months rent in a deposit. Me personally, I did not. Because there is also no process for security deposits like there are in the United States. In the United States, when you give a security deposit, the landlord is required, or the leasing office company is required to put it in an interest-bearing account and then submit that back to you when you move out and everything's okay. That's not a thing here. So you got to hope that when you move, your landlord is cool. And if you don't destroy it, they'll give you the money back. And I have some friends who've had a hard time, getting their deposits back. So you have to make that decision for yourself. I was more open to paying more rent rather than it being allocated to deposits. And that's what I chose to do. So it was bad. I think, gosh, I saw over 30, 40 apartments, and the prices were expensive. If you're coming to Portugal and you come during the summer, please remember that there is going to be a winter. And if you're looking at an apartment that doesn't have air or heat, the winter is going to be interesting. You will have to get a space heater, and the electricity can be pretty pricey, so consider that. So many of you all may already know that my apartment that I lived in didn't have air or heat. I did use a space heater. It was cold. It was no insulation in the apartment. So those types of things you have to consider, and you have to decide, like, do you want to pay a large amount of money for amenities that you may not get, or you could? It just really depends. So I hope I'm not getting people too confused. And I'm going to read your questions that you already emailed to me. And again, if you have any questions, because we're going to do it on first come, first serve, because I'm not going to keep you guys too long. But go ahead and put your questions in, and I'll be sure to answer those after I answer everyone else's question. Let me see if I got everything that I want to say. All right. Okay. I already did a video on the links in the videos, the links of how to find an apartment. I left that in the description box. Okay. So go ahead and check that. And I included all the links that I use and that you can use in order to find an apartment. It's the various real estate companies, and then some other online companies. I actually found this apartment on ID Listo, which is one of the websites. But it's a lot going on, y'all. I wish I had good news for you. And again, we're going to talk about this in full detail next Sunday, unadulterated. So definitely come see me. Also, if you're moving to Portugal, definitely consider learning the language. And we have the Intro to Portuguese Language class coming up again, starting on the 25th. We have 14 spots left. So if you're interested in that, definitely click the link in the description for that as well. So let me go to some of your questions. Okay, so this one, should I hire a real estate agent to view apartments? Fees, is the language going to be a barrier? So it's going to be really hard. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. It's going to be super hard trying to get an apartment and you are not here. Like it's going to be a challenge. And if you are moving, let's say in June, and you're trying to do something now, that apartment's not going to be available by the time you come here. And understand summer high time, it's going to be even more competitive for you to get an apartment, not just in Portugal, but anywhere. Even in your home country, prices are more expensive during the summer than they are in the winter. So of course you could get a real estate agent. You may need to get a couple. And then fees, I don't know. You got to check. Usually, if it's for rental, I think they're paid by the landlord. But it's going to be a challenge. You can find some real estate agents that do speak English if you asked about the language and that being a barrier. I hope I understood that correctly. Okay, how much should you expect to pay up front for an apartment? That's really hard to say. I can't give you a number I'm from DC. I couldn't tell you what the number would be in DC, but at the bare minimum, what it's looking like, if you do not have a guarantor, you are probably going to have to pay at least 6 months up front. 3 months may be a security deposit, and the other 3 months may be, actual, upfront rent. It can go further than that. I feel bad to tell y'all I had to pay like a bunch of months, like over 10 months up front to secure the apartment that I'm currently in. And the reason why I feel so bad about that is because, you try to respect the economy of the countries you're in and just not try to completely destroy so that, people who are from this country can get an apartment. And I've been having this battle with that because I try to be super conscious of that. And then it's like 1 minute you need a place to live and you frantic and you're my visa expires next month and I have to have an address, and I was just stressed. And so then it was just okay, we just gotta do what you gotta do to make it happen. And so I battle with that. Because I definitely don't, understand gentrification is a real thing. And I want to contribute as less to that as I possibly can. But then it's you gotta, So anyway, that's just my tangent. What are some common amenities? There's not there's usually a washer, not necessarily a dryer. Central air is not common in Europe, not just Portugal. Heat. So Portugal it gets cold. And you do need heat, but if you don't have it piped into the apartment, it wasn't a huge deal for me. There was a winter that made me what, but that's not necessarily common. The newer apartments, probably the new apartments are going to be much more expensive. Should you hire a bilingual attorney to review the lease? Absolutely. So the lease in any country is going to be honored in the native language, right? So if you don't know what it says in the native language, you're going to struggle. There have been some leases that I've seen or heard about that are off the chain. So you really have to make sure that you know what is being said. And you do need more than just putting it into Google Translate, because some things don't necessarily translate well. And you need to be very clear what you were committing to. Here's the other thing that's a bit disturbing of having to pay 6 to a year upfront. You got to really hope you have a good landlord, because if you don't, would you have no other bargaining chips because you've already paid a whole year up front. You can't say, well, I won't pay rent until you fix this, because you've already paid your rent up front. By the grace of God, I've had some pretty good landlords. My last landlord was decent. And this one, again, we're still new. He seems really logical and kind. So Portugal doesn't have, and maybe various parts of Europe now that I think about it, but in the States, a building can go up and it's nothing but leases, right? That's not necessarily the case here. So usually it's an individual who is renting the home versus a corporation creating leased buildings for residential purpose. That's not really a thing. Even when there is new construction, is geared toward purchasing rather than a place of rentals, right? So hope that makes sense. Okay, so yes, you do need to get a bilingual attorney. Bilingual meaning, of course, all the attorneys here are going to speak Portuguese. And if you don't speak Portuguese, you're going to need them to speak English, right? So of course, they're going to be bilingual at the very minimum. In regards to websites to find apartments, please check the link in this description. And in that video I did, I showed you how and all that, and the favorite aggregators that I use. So I will do that. Okay. And since prices are high in Lisbon, does it mean sacrificing accessibility and walkability to being further outside of Lisbon? No, I mean, I think what you have to decide is, what is it that you're going to do every day? Do you know what I mean? Like, I know some people feel like they want to be in the city, but what are you doing? Like, are you coming here and retired and are you fishing? Like, what's your everyday life? Because you're not coming here as a tourist, I would imagine, right? So what is your everyday life going to look like? And it's possible you can move way further out in Portugal. They have every, grocery stores, hospitals, every other parts of Portugal. You have to decide what you want to do every day with your life, but you can walk a variety of different places. There's usually a place to get groceries very close. So you very well could, but you do want to kind of figure out what do you plan for your life to look like when you move? You know what I mean? And then kind of decide, do you need to be in a city or not? And that would kind of help things out a little bit. I hope that's helpful. Okay. As you go about your day, what are the kind of the neighborhoods that you've lived in and now? Oh, so asking about a woman of color, right? Listen, Portugal, they not think about me. And there's a population of people, Africans and people of color here. So it's not a big issue. Just got back from Austria. Not the case there. So people are super kind. I haven't had any issue, but doesn't mean that you won't. But for the most part, people are kind. They're not thinking about you and your color. Is the rental payment automated? So you're going to be paying to a person most likely. So how you pay is going to depend on the landlord and how they want that. Automation, I wired my monthly payment to my last landlord. And since this one was paid up front, that I wired that to him as well. It kind of hurts my heart every time I say it. And I'm bitter, to be honest with you, to pay a year up front and not own something. To the core of me hurts my feelings a whole bunch. Like it makes my feelings hurt a lot. So I'm always going to be bitter about that. Okay, got it. Okay, so another individual asks, they enjoy the suburbs. What area for a person like me who wants the suburb but close to the city? So let me just show you something really quickly. Did I cue this up correctly? Watch, I didn't. Okay, so just pull up a map of Lisbon or Portugal Lisbon district, and you can see, like, even here, this is Idealista's map, but it can kind of help you see other various neighborhoods. It's just one of the more helpful maps that I think. And not only can you find apartments here, but you can also see what other areas and neighborhoods. And if you want to go even further out, Lisbon District, Idealista. If you want to go further out and just do the district in general, so then you can see more of the other areas that you can move to that aren't necessarily in the city of Lisbon if, that's not your vibe, right? You definitely don't have to go to the city if that's not what you want. But again, I can't name a city or a neighborhood for you because, again, you need to know what are you doing? Are you walking the beaches? Like, what do you want to do? And then from that, kind of find the neighborhood that's conducive for that. If you want to farm or you want to, whatever it is your life, circles around or you enjoy doing, like maybe you want to be, doing some various jujitsu or yoga or whatever. So those things may be closer to the city. So there's a variety of neighborhoods. And again, just look at the map and then you can narrow down what area you like better. I would say visit them, and then also communicate with your real estate agents and talk to them and ask them, based on the amenities you want, what are some neighborhoods that you should consider? Okay, what's the closest city or town to Lisbon? Same thing. They're the good quality of life and less expensive option. Expensive is relative, and what's going on right now, it's pricey. Like you can easily come out and have to spend. I hate saying this out loud because it just seems, and you can expect to spend anywhere from like 10,000 to 20,000 euros. That may not be the case, but I feel like if you prepare, and that can get more expensive depending on how many bedrooms you want and what amenities you need. But I'm sorry, that's just my experience. It may not. I'm sorry, I hate saying that. Again, if you join me on Zoom, I'm gonna put it all out there, and I curse a little bit, so get over it. How much negotiating leverage do renters have? Is there a baseline estimate to amount it's typical to negotiate? Absolutely not. The days of being able, in my opinion, to negotiate rent down, because when I first moved here, everyone was like, don't pay, what they ask. Now it's like it's a bidding war. So if you don't offer something, they just won't even consider your contract. Like even one of my friends, the real estate agents just wanted them to do some ridiculous things, and she was like, I'm not doing that. Like, well, we just can't submit it doesn't even make sense to submit your contract. I think they're obligated to do it, but she told her it doesn't make sense to submit your contract because what we have is this, and this, right? So there is not in my opinion, just from my experience, I think the negotiating thing is not even a thing anymore. Sorry. Can I convert an Airbnb into a lease agreement? Is that common? Not particularly. People who want Airbnbs usually want short-term rentals. I even think they're taxed differently. I could be wrong. But usually people who want an Airbnb. Now, for me, I did that, but it was in the middle of COVID. You know what I mean? So it's not like tourists were coming here, and it made more sense to just, have a tenant there that would be there for a year. In my case, I was there for 2. And still make income off of the property versus just sitting vacant. So that is why he considered it. And then, of course, I had to move out. So, they want to make their money off of it. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's going to be a little bit harder. I keep hearing to have 6 months deposit. It may not necessarily mean deposit in the true sense of the word, like it having to be a security deposit, but you probably can expect to minimum of 6 months, because if you are a foreigner and you don't have a guarantor, they're going to want more of something, even though, no, I'm not going to go there. I'll talk about that in soon. Okay, sorry. Can you go over? Okay, I keep hearing. Okay, so I think I add, what method of finding and securing a rental have you seen to be the most success? Going online and hurrying up. I mean, it's really no magical way. Unfortunately, it just. I'm sorry. I think that It's just that bad. Like it was super stressful. Like I made myself sick. Many of you know I have an autoimmune disease, and the stress just really made me sick. Like I got to spend the next 3 months just trying to get my life back together, because it is bad. The rental market is unbelievable. I'm prepared to answer your questions right now. So let's get into that. Put a Q in front of your questions if you just to help me be able to sort. Hey Deborah, I hope everyone. Sandra, I missed you, love. Good to see you. Okay, Diane, Rochelle, hey there folks. Boa tarde. Blacksit, what's going on? Kimberly, love to see your beautiful face, honey. Okay, all right, you got questions, folks? Now where are my questions? Okay, well, yes, thanks California. California over there creating all types of havoc. Okay, not getting your deposit back is an issue in Mexico too. Interesting. So Melanie said not getting your deposit back in Mexico is also a thing. So be careful, guys. If you're moving abroad, like Knowing that part is pretty critical. Okay, is this only in Lisbon? Are there other price wars? That's a very good question. And why can't I bring your question over? Because what am I doing? Okay. Ivy, is the price war only in Lisbon? Honestly, have no idea. I only looked in the Lisbon. I live in the Lisbon district. I don't live in the city. So I don't know. Like if you go to parts of like probably like Aveiro or I don't know, further out, probably not, but I honestly have no idea. But good question. I apologize that I can't answer that. I lived there for a year. Mexico City rentals are wild. Do you know any loopholes with the new California requirements? I don't know nothing about California. I just know some folks that have reached out to me and told me, but I know nothing about California. If you have to apply through California, like, I'm sorry, because it is nasty. Okay, not seeing a link. Where do you find those? The link for Allison. What's up, my love? The links for what, love? Did I not put the link in the description box again? If I didn't, I'm sorry, and I will do it once we're off of this. But the link to the language course should be down there, and the link to the Zoom should be down there. And also the link on showing you how to get the apartments. Those are the 3 links that should be down there. I have no idea if I did that well. So my apologies. Okay, moving fall 2023. Can I enter a tourist visa? Okay, so let's see what's going on here. All right. Okay, moving to fall. Can I enter on a tourist visa and find an apartment, then apply a residency? Or is the 1-year lease? No, full disclosure, the 1-year lease is only... I won't say only, far as I know, is mandatory for Californians. So if you're saying you're applying through DC, you should be fine unless DC changes it. So definitely check with the embassy. I can't tell you what that is. But the 1-year lease thing, it's Californians over here making life crazy. Not just Californians, but a lot is going on. Europe is going through a massive amount of changes. Obviously, we're in a war. Currency is wilding out. So just be careful. But if you're doing a DC office, from last I know, my friend just applied last month, and it was not a requirement to have a year lease. As far as I know, California is the one doing that. Okay, it's reputable that landlords don't return deposits there. Did you get your deposit back after leaving my first rental? Very good question. So, not yet. Not yet. I can keep you guys posted on that. But I moved not long ago. Like I think I've only been here for 3 weeks. In the last 2 weeks, I was in Austria. So I think word on the street is they have like 15 or 30 days. I gotta confirm that. But I haven't heard back from my landlord, and I have sent him an email. So I do not know, but I can keep you all posted. But here's what I considered when I moved. I just took the deposit and divided it by how many months I would be there, and be like, extra $60 a month or extra $80 a month is what it costs. And I just added it to the rent just in case I didn't get my deposit back. I don't know if that made sense. It made sense in my head, but basically I had anticipated I'm not getting a deposit back. But that may not be the case, but that's kind of how I went through it, understanding what the process is here. So, and granted, that apartment was 750 euros, and that was 2 years ago. I have not seen an apartment close to that number since I've been looking. So now we're talking about higher numbers, and then the expectation of doing 3 months of that and then not necessarily getting that back. So we could easily talk about, 3 to 5 to maybe 7 to however many thousand euros. And you're like, wait a minute, you mean something I ain't getting it? You know what I mean? So it's a little different, if that makes sense. So, but to answer your question, I have not yet. So okay. Also, can you explain how to find a guarantor? I don't know. I ain't get one. I mean, because it's super difficult. You have to know some leases specifically said they want a Portuguese guarantor who works for a Portuguese company, which made it even more challenging. So I cannot tell you how to get a guarantor because I did not get one. I paid more money, unfortunately. I'm sorry. Okay, let's get this question up here. Okay, do you need to maintain an active lease housing situation to keep your resident visa valid? It sounds like you had to get an appointment to stay, or did I misinterpret? An appointment to stay. I don't think I understand your question, love. I'm so sorry. So my visa expires next month. I needed my residency card to go to an address that I live to. So that's why I was so stressed out. I don't know, does that answer your question? So my initial visa stuff was with my other apartment, and I have to renew in less than a month. So and naturally, and that's I think I and that one's valid for 3 years. So do you need to maintain an active lease housing to keep your you would at least need to keep it valid at least when you're going to immigration, right? I think if I under because technically I could have moved from my apartment and still been valid with my visa because my visa didn't expire. But my visa is getting ready to expire, and you need your card, right? So I hope I answered your question. I'm not really sure if I did, but I'm sorry. Allison, great question. Okay, thanks. Okay, yes, yeah, cute. The stress, man. Okay, did I consider buying a flat? Right. So Melanie, maybe you just joined us. I did consider buying. And so if you check the beginning of this live, the issues with buying that you need to consider, and I'll just kind of sum up some of them, but I can't remember everything I said. One, there's not a such thing as a real estate appraisal as a profession in Portugal. If a bank does the loan, they will send an appraiser out, but there's not like you can just go to a place and hire a real estate appraiser like you can do in the States. So real estate investing is part of my background. So me purchasing something and not knowing what its value, I just can't wrap my brain around that. Some people can, and if it, by all means, me personally, I can't make that make sense. So that was one of my issues, but I was funding it through the Portuguese bank. So they would have required appraisal. There's no escrow. And I was, there was a bunch of times I was getting ready to buy and something didn't work out, and it was nasty. So to answer your question shortly, yes, I did consider purchasing, but it just didn't make sense. And again, just with currency, you guys got to remember that if you're purchasing, you're taking your USD money that is worth less, and you're buying euro. You're buying a house in euros, and the euros has gone down, right? So at one point, that money that you used of USD to euros kind of vanished. But if you hold on to your investment, hopefully, the euro will go back up. Like, depending on how you feel about the investment, you have to do those types of numbers, in my opinion, if you want to make those type of investments, just so you are okay, particularly if you're talking about taking money out of appreciating asset and putting it into an asset where the currency is adjusting a little bit, and your value in your home, if you got it from the States, may drop in value because we are going through a global recession. Okay, yes, you need to map out what your life looks like. Yes, and then decide from there. Totally agree. Oh, wow, I'd love to hear about your travels in Europe. Okay, questions. You guys have any questions? Will you be doing an updated cost of living video? That's a good question. Will I do an updated cost of living video because of the inflation and the recession? I can. I guess because really the only thing I spend is like groceries, but I can. It probably won't be. It won't be this year though. I think I'm taking the rest of the year off, to be honest. But yeah, I'll try to get that out for you. How long have you been living there? I've been living in Portugal for 3 years. Aries girl, good looking out. Like the video if it's helpful. If it's not, then I understand. Sounds like you need to go over and see what sounds like. Yes, you do. You do need to come and kind of figure out. It's going to be super hard trying to do this far away. I really like. Okay, so let's see the Big Auntie show. What's going on? Okay, I really like Cascais in this city is the area. Yeah, water views are nice. Okay, so guys, do you have any more questions? Because if you don't, how long have we been on here? Oh, we're doing good. It wasn't even an hour. If you don't have any more questions, then I will head out. How's the inflation been in Lisbon? Everything's going up everywhere. It's not just Lisbon, and people are hurting. So when I have to spend more money on an apartment that I'm not going to own and put money down like that. And I know that like it's difficult for people who are from here. It hurts my feelings, and I definitely don't want to be part of the problem. And I'm sorry. I don't mean to be. Again, if you are available next Sunday, we're doing this again through Zoom. Okay. So it will be, you can ask me your questions, and it'll be a little bit easier because I can hear you and we can talk back and forth. It's free. Come join me. Same time. But we'll just be doing it through Zoom. Also, we have 14 spots available for the intro to Portuguese. So definitely come out and join. Okay. Any more questions? All right. Because I feel like y'all talking to, really? Are they putting... I'm going to have to get a moderator because I see we got some special stuff going on. Okay. Do you know any loopholes? I don't live in California, y'all. There are not any loopholes. Like, here's the thing you got to remember, which is you're asking someone to move into their country, and you're going to have to do it in California. They just make the state of California is making y'all do the most. They want y'all to stay there and pay taxes in California. They're not trying to let y'all go easy. So loopholes, first of all, I wouldn't even like loopholes in public. Don't even sound like something anyone should be talking about. You trying to get me in trouble, Julia? No, I really don't know any loopholes there. But California, they're trying to keep you. If you have a Portuguese person who advocates, talks to you, is it? Allison, I'm not sure what your question is. If you have a Portuguese person who advocates, talks for you, is no. I mean, here's the thing. The terms are what they are. If a landlord has someone offering them 2 years up front, like what? As a landlord, like, wouldn't you take it? Like, it don't matter whether they speaking, this or that. If the landlord want more money, they gonna get more money. Sadly, there's and that's what makes it complicated. Because then you ain't try to be that person. You weren't trying to spend all this money and change the economy. And then landlords are like, nah, I'm gonna need you to come up off that. So I mean, no, I think right now money's talking. That's what we got. Okay, so I think did your friend get approved through DC without a year lease? Yes. So DC's parameters are, the states in which you have to apply are going to be different. You have to figure out what it's going to be for your embassy that you have to apply for. What it sounds like is California is the strictest, and they are requiring to tell somebody they got to get a year lease before they even know if they like really like. I ain't gonna go there. I don't want California coming for me. But all right. Good morning. Okay. Tip, pay the deposit by PayPal. It's semi-protected. No, that's not even an option. Because who's going to accept? That's not an option. You can't pay your deposit through PayPal. You have to wire your money to a Portuguese bank. You are dealing with Portuguese citizens who have bank accounts that you have to wire money to. So this is bank to bank. This, you ain't using no third party. When I have to wire money from the States coming from a bank to another bank, and these are large sums of money. No, you're not going to do PayPal. If you live in California, can I apply for a visa through an embassy in different? No. Californians, listen. California is not trying to let y'all go. They want your taxes and everything else to stay up in California, and they are making it as difficult as possible from what I hear. So no, you gotta apply in the jurisdiction of California if you live in California, because I feel like even Seattle and a bunch of other West Coast people, they got to go to California to apply. I missed it, but then you move. I did move from Caxias. Yes, I don't live in Caxias anymore. What is the advantage of buying property in a foreign country? Well, baby, that depends on you, love, heart, and it depends on what country. Depends on currency. It depends on entirely too much. So you gotta be more specific on that one, love. Screwed up the time here. No worries, Miss John. Hey, Francine, Miss Johnson, come see me next week. We gonna be real upfront and honest in there. Expect to pay a real estate to find a rental. So I expect to pay a real estate. I'm assuming you meant real estate agent to find an apartment. You don't have to. I didn't use a real estate agent for the apartment I'm in right now. So many people want to buy in foreign countries and don't know the laws. Gee, say it louder for the people in the back. It fascinates me that people do that and just don't know nothing about that country, the law. You don't even know the tax. You don't know that when you sell the property, how you will get taxed, like, and how that works. But yes, so many people want to buy property in foreign countries and don't know the laws and the rights of buying and being a citizen. Portugal real estate laws are very different than the U.S. Say it louder for the people in the back. Okay, I overheard someone who moved and they were saying, yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do here. I was thinking about flipping properties. Clearly, you haven't researched anything. You cannot expect the real estate process in the States to be anything like it is in Portugal. That's not a thing here. And two, taxes are a big thing. So you have to, I feel like someone just told me if it's your if it's not your primary residence, the tax is 45%. And I could you imagine? Could you imagine almost taking 50% and losing that to taxes because it's not your primary home? So listen, and again, no judgment. Again, trying to be respectful of the culture. Should have said that in the Zoom, but that sounds like a lot. Yeah. So guys, if you want to buy property in someone else's country, I'm gonna need y'all to do a little bit of research. This is a big investment. You have to know you even need to know about the economy. Can you sell that property later? Will you be able to sell it to someone who's not a foreigner? Like, what are you going to do when you need to get rid of this investment? Or if you pass away, how is this going to go to your heirs? Like, guys, you got to really start thinking about some stuff if that's what you're trying to do. Okay. If I live in California, can I apply for a visa through an embassy you cannot. Did I just read okay, no. If you don't need a lease for the D7, does that mean you can just get a short-term rental as part of the application? So here's the thing, Black Sig Global, you still need to show that you're living somewhere for at least 6 months. That is what it was for me when I applied and my friend just came from DC. And that is what the case was then as well. So you're going to have to check with them. I feel like someone told me they're not taking Airbnbs anymore, but you got to confirm that. So I'm not sure. Now, you don't have to have a year lease like California, but you do have to show that you have something set up for you to live there for at least 6 months. Because when you do your visa in the States, there's still a process of you doing your visa here, and that can take anywhere from 4 to 6 months. So they want to know you got a place to stay. Thank you, Sean. I'm so glad it was helpful. If DC accepts 6 months leases, does CEF require one? If DC accepts 6 month lease, CEF does require 1 year. I had to read that twice. CEF does require 1 year. So that's how you kind of got to, you know what I'm saying? You got to dip and dive, because that's how you can end up wasting a good amount of money when you first come. So for those of you who are under the impression that moving out of the country is very cost effective, at least the initial, it is not. You're going to have a lot of capital outlay initially, and if that's not in your budget, you don't want to come. Be honest with you, and I'm not just in Portugal, but just in general, you really have to be prepared for what's going on. I mean, we don't even know what the winter finna look like. You know, to be honest, I'm trying to find reports to have a better understanding as to if Russia's not giving Europe gas, how that look in regards to bills. I don't know, right? Because I'll go run. Well, sorry, we'll leave that for Zoom. Sorry. I'll be sure time next week. Okay, I'll see. I would love to chat with you next week. Okay, again, same time next week. We are on Zoom. Link is in the description. I hope so. And then also join us for our Portuguese class, 2 years up front. That's what's going on. Wow. Yeah, sorry. Okay. I hope that the new digital require a lease. So can we talk about this digital nomad visa? Can I say this out in public, or should I leave this for Zoom? How do I, okay. Now I got to think, and I don't know how to think. And so even the digital nomad visa has its requirements, right? But you still got to get a place to live. So you still want to endure this rental dramatics that's going on. But to me, the regular D7 wasn't that much different than the current digital nomad visa. I feel like you have to show more income than you did have to before, maybe, but it doesn't seem like it's that much of a difference. But here's another thing that you have to consider, and I'm again attempting to respect the culture and the country in its fullest, but understand the jobs. Portugal's not known for having high-paying jobs. If you need a job, do not move to Portugal. Flat out, do not do that. So when you see that the government is pushing initiatives to get foreigners in here to bring money into the economy, you got to ask yourself a lot of questions. You got to like, so when people move and real estate is booming, do you want it to just be foreigners, or do you want to purchase real estate in which it's priced well enough that people who live here can actually purchase? And it's a struggle. I mean, one of the reasons why, real estate and things go up is because there's a booming economy. There's jobs. People can get jobs. That's not the thing in Portugal. Like, Portugal's not known for that. So you really have to do some conversations with yourself and to see financially, does it make sense? Taking into account currency, like, definitely think about it. Okay, how far out from the city center do you have to go? At least, is it close to the metro? To go for what, hun? So Scott asked, how far out from the city did I have to go? I'm in, so I'm a little bit, hidden about where specifically I am, because somebody actually showed up at my apartment last time, or two people did that, which was beyond weird, right? Like, who does that? Who just comes to someone's? So I am not far from the last apartment that I'm in. And so there aren't metros out here, but there is a train. So there's trains to Sintra, there's trains to Cascais, there's trains all throughout, and then they'll bring you in to the city, and then you could take the metro in the city. The metro is specifically, in that Lisbon area, but there's still tons of trains and other forms of transportation. So don't fret over that too much. You'll still be able to I still can get to Lisbon in 25 minutes on a train. So don't worry about that, Scott, if that's your concern. Yes, come through, James. Okay, Black said facts. My friend is Portuguese citizen. She had to move recently in Nazaré. Yep. She said the market is wild. It is. Wild is not the world. It's crazy. I'm California. Is there an advantage to me to buy versus rent in Portugal? No. Plus, you need to know how. Yeah. Also, guys, please learn the language. I mean, granted, I'm biased. We have a language course, but once you come outside of Lisbon, you're really gonna need to be able to speak. And it's not just for rental, but just to, like, be a part of the culture. You came to somebody's country, like, learn the language, like, communicate with people. When people talk about feeling lonely and not meeting people, it's a lot easier to meet people if you can speak the language. So please consider that. Because as a foreigner, you're gonna pay a foreigner tax just because you don't know what you're doing. And it takes a minute. I live in California, moving to Texas for a year, then apply for the DC. Karen, I like the way you're thinking. I'm not going to say that out loud, but if you in the comments, Karen, I like the way you think. Spies are everywhere. No, so this chat won't be up because I'm gonna end up edit. So this chat gonna be up. This is gonna be closed once we're done here because I gotta edit it. And when you do that on YouTube, it takes a chat. So, but great idea. Some have done that, and that is brilliant. I'm not gonna repeat what she said because that's why we're asking for more. Yeah, Karen, she mentioned you have to apply through the embassy where you reside, Texas. So Texas resident to DC embassy does not. Oh, so Texas has, I'm assuming, I don't know where Texas goes to do it, if they go to DC or if they go to California. But if it is, upfront costs will initially more wherever you move. Absolutely, Katrina, that is completely true. Oh, no. Right. I agree. No stalkers, but people are weird. People on the internet are weird. No way. Why would you do that? Okay, correct. Yeah, I have a family of three. Okay. Okay, so if we don't have any more questions, guys, we did good. We rocked this out for less than an hour. Oh, thank you, Rhonda. I appreciate you. I agree. You should at least try to learn. Yes, please try to learn the language, folks. Texas goes to DC. This, first of all, how do I block this person? Banned. Okay. Yes, ban them. Jesus Christ, they doing all types of adult stuff in my comments now. Like, and am I that girl now? Yes, in Atlanta, you definitely go to DC. Good looking because it's crazy. Okay, so I think that is it, folks. Okay, so come join me. Same bat time, different bat channel. We are doing it in Zoom. We're gonna be open and honest, and yeah. So I think that's it. If we don't have any questions, come join us for, if you're coming to Portugal, moving to Portugal, definitely consider the language course. Hey, Deborah. Good to see you. Thanks for your time. Okay, y'all. I'm sad to tell you that this is what it is right now. But I want to be honest with you all, because even as it relates to budgeting, not knowing this can completely obliterate your budget. And like I said, if this was my first encounter with muito bem, e falo português pouco, I'm pretty good. I'm good, especially when I'm eating. I have learned that I need to get my vocabulary up in the medical field, because when I go to the doctor, I am a little lost in what's happening. I don't remember what I was saying. So yeah, hope that helps y'all. Okay, VFS, who handles the visas for the West Coast jurisdiction, is only in California, but it covers all the states from Colorado. California has nothing to do with the requirements. It's the consulate. See, here's why I feel like it's not the consulate. I could be wrong, Scott. Because I feel like if it was the Portugal consulate, then that would be standard. It's not the case with the DC office. It's not the case with with Boston. So it sounds like it's a California thing. It's a West Coast. All of the ones that are associated with California have to do that. Not everybody has to come to Portugal with a year lease. That's not everybody. So that's why I'm saying it does not sound like it's something Portugal is forcing. It sounds like it's something it's not. So, but I don't know. I just live here. Had a call, have to watch the playback. Okay, good seeing you, Sandra. I may divert to another country and get to listen, Auntie Trey, I get it. All right, folks, it's been a pleasure. I hope that was helpful. I'm sorry I don't have good news. But, I just want you to know that I'll give you the real next week. And then we're able to talk and communicate back and forth, because sometimes you ask me questions and I can't quite answer them. So hope this was helpful for my entrepreneurs, consulting, marketing people, all of that in your business. I know I haven't been giving you any content in that. Give me a minute. I just moved into the apartment and I got y'all covered for the upcoming year. Okay. So I appreciate you all. And I know you could be anywhere you were here with me, and I appreciate you. Until next time.